Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. It is Tuesday, March 7th. Frank Granito, Kevin Coleman, John Kovacs. Happy to welcome in the newest member of the crew too, our director Eric Gendron, getting on the camera today. Eric, how you doing back there?
What's up, everyone? We're going to be doing things a little differently now. We're trying to make this a little more loose, free form, and we also want to get as much swag as possible in here. We want this to be a veritable FCAC I Spy in here when we're all said and done. And so we got the Tigers rag here. We got the Cardinals hockey. If you look around here, you'll see lots of fun things out back. We want to make this FCAC Central in here and give you a little peek behind the scenes as well. But it's still Frank's show, right, Frank?
Nah, well, ideally, we could just get enough stuff, Eric, that we can start having people tweet at us what jersey you should wear on a day-by-day basis. That's really what we want to finish with.
I like that idea.
I want Coleman's reaction to him referring to the Tiger towel as a rag. I'm waiting for Coleman's reaction to that.
You. That's a good-looking towel, all right. I worked hard to get that.
Yeah, we're already a little behind here because I came in on me and I started talking and I realized I had my headphones on and I had an echo in my own head here. So we're off to a bit of a rocky start, but we'll get it.
We're going to get there. Listen, I'm all about the Cardiac Cats and the amazing postseason that they had. It was unfortunate that the clock struck midnight last night, but that might be a rag now moving forward after that tough loss.
Ooh, Kovacs, throw me under the bus here early on here. Listen, they're not the Cardiac Cats for a reason. Shout out to Shelton, great win last night. Tigers, better bring in the springtime.
Before we talk about last night's basketball game, we can stay on a high note with the Ridgefield Tigers. John's in the studios right now. We're going to break down Saturday's FCAC championship win in boys hockey, a 5-2 win for the Tigers. Third time this season they have beaten the Rams, John, and listen, it was one of the best hockey games we've seen all year. It was sloppy, though. 15 penalties total, 12 of them in the first two periods, and neither team able to capitalize on a power play until the third.
That's the amazing thing, and that just dawned on me. You had all those penalties in the first two periods and all the scorings in the third.
It was nuts when you think about the way the third period opened up. When you saw, Joe Signorelli got that first goal of the game just 4 minutes into play, and it was off a bad New Canaan turnover. We were talking about it, a forced pass behind their own net that ends up with a loose puck in the slot. A huge shot there from Chase Glover. The Rams needed their secondary guys to step up, which is not the kind of team they are. Tyler Hill gets the second goal for them, but there was not enough offense from their top line, or their top two lines, I thought.
We've talked about them being deep, and they are deep. But they're not deep in a scoring sense. They're not deep in that you see a lot of production goal-wise from their third line, from their fourth line. And Ridgefield just does so much well. They skate strong. They play physical, which we saw. Sometimes maybe a little too physical. They move the puck well. And what impresses me, having coached other sports, is the communication, because you can harp on athletes every single day, as I'm sure you have as a coach, Frank, and still can't get them to talk to each other during play. Those Ridgefield guys, they're constantly letting each other know where they are, and that helps make plays.
It's one thing you learn very early on as a hockey player, because the tendency is to bang your stick on the ice when you want to call for a pass. Every stick banging on the ice sounds exactly the same. Your teammates are going to know your voice to distinguish from one another. Obviously, the MVP of the tournament, and he was the player of the game in this one as well, Kevin. Sean Keegan's so phenomenal here. I want you to break down what impressed you about him, and then I want to ask you a question here. More important player to the Tigers heading forward into the tournament, Sean Keegan, Matteo Van Wees.
I mean, the two of them combined, they put on a great performance throughout the season and the playoffs, but, I thought the back line of Harrison Schuma and McCreary were excellent. You talk about defense that really steps up in front of the puck. How many block shots did we see from the Ridgefield Tigers? New Canaan really had some great looks on net, but it was the Tigers defense that really stood tall and had some nice block shots, taking the body. Frank, this is a Ridgefield team that really could, make an impact in this state tournament because of that defense.
Let me throw it over to Eric for a second. Eric, New Canaan had 2 full minutes of a 5-on-3 advantage in that first period, followed by a whole nother power play. Do you think they're shooting themselves in the foot right now with the way they handle their power play time?
Oh, absolutely. We were talking about it during all the commercial breaks and in between periods, and that was the game right there. I thought is when New Canaan could not take advantage of the power play. just had every opportunity to get into that game when it was still 1-0, and then ended up chasing all those goals that Ridgefield was able to respond with. Yeah, absolutely. They got to be shooting themselves in the foot with not being able to hit their power plays.
So it's the 6th all-time championship now for the Ridgefield Tigers. They become just the 3rd school all-time to win both the boys basketball and boys hockey championship in the same year. And before we get on to the state tournament, John, we're going to have a theme around the show today. We're asking everyone on here, who do you think had a better winter season? The Ridgefield Athletic Department or the Danbury Hatters? And remember, Danbury won the first 4 FCX championships of the year. That was track and field for both the boys and girls indoor, cheerleading and wrestling. The wrestling team won both state opens and Class LL, and they just won the New England championship. Huge shout out to them for that. Who do you give the edge to now, ultimately this winter?
Based on what you just enumerated, Frank, that's why I'm going to go with Danbury. That wrestling title to win all of New England, that's huge. All of those. Yes, Ridgefield won the 2 high-profile sports, and all the credit to them, and they had an awesome winter that way. But if you look at depth, if you look at the number of titles, I think you have to go with Danbury. You look at teams that dominated the state and the region, you look at Danbury. That's why I think I got to go with Danbury.
And it's a little tough, though, too, because one thing you can also factor into it, Ridgefield did not do all that poorly in a lot of the other sports, too. Remember, they're semifinalists in girls basketball, up there in gymnastics. They were up there at the track and the indoor track and field on the girls' side. So, yes, they do win the 2 biggest high-profile by sheer numbers. Danbury has an advantage, but do you maybe start to factor in some of those second-place, third-place finishes in other sports, Kevin?
I think you do. I think this is I don't think we're having an argument here. If Danbury beats Ridgefield in the boys FCX semifinal, we wouldn't be here having this debate. You know, if it wasn't for Zach Essenplayer hitting that huge game-tying three-pointer to force overtime, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I think the Tigers put on a great performance all season long in all sports. They killed it in swimming as well. You can't forget that. This is a Tigers team in all winter sports that did so well. The girls team unfortunately fell in the semifinals, like you mentioned, in girls basketball. I have to stick with my Tigers. You know, this was first title ever in basketball for FCX, and then they go on the next day, 2 days later, and win boys hockey in FCX against a very good New Canaan team. I gotta stick with my Tigers, John.
Oh yeah, real big shock with Kevin sticking with
Eric, we're coming back for your opinion when we bring Don in on the next block. Let's look at the state tournament now in hockey, and we'll follow the SCAC teams. First up right away, St. Joe's, the number 16 seed, is at number 1 Northwest Catholic. You've always got a puncher's chance with a goalie like Ryan Wilson in net. That is a tough trip to make, though, up there, and it's just a tough matchup for the Cadets.
It is tough, but like you said, Ryan Wilson, and if Ryan Wilson plays the games like he played in this FCAC tournament during the season, they do have a puncher's chance. They've got to stay disciplined and stay out of the box.
One team that I think could really pull an upset here from the FCAC is the Fairfield Co-op, Eric. They go on the road to West Haven. That's a good matchup for Fairfield, and this is a very hungry team now who won Division II last year. They're up into the Division I tournament, but second year in a row, they're upset in the first round of FCX. I like, actually, Fairfield in that matchup against West Haven.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how Fairfield does in that Division I tournament, because I mean, I think you can make the argument with some of these teams that, you know, they're up against all these Division I teams in the FCAC all season, like the Westhill Stanford, you know, when they were last year, where they played mostly D3 teams, this year playing mostly D2 teams, and then last year Fairfield winning the D2 championship, moving up to D1. It will be very interesting to see how they fare against non-FCAC teams, and I think they're actually in a really good position in the bracket. Looking at that, they're at the bottom of the bracket there. We've got the 11 seed. If they can beat West Haven, they get the winner of Xavier and East Catholic. Xavier's tough, but I think Fairfield is a team that could pull off an upset there and at least get to, say, a semifinal. And you're right, Frank. I think Fairfield is hungry. They're disappointed they got knocked off in that first round. They could be in a position to maybe – I think they could at least make a semifinal run, but the problem is they could eventually run into either Ridgefield or Fairfield Prep.
And that's true. It's a very tough matchup if you get past West Haven and take on Xavier in that quarterfinal game. But we've seen Xavier lose twice this year to FCX schools. That was Ridgefield once and New Canaan once. They're a top 3 team, but they're a very beatable team. Prep is on the same side of the bracket, and a team that really has got to feel they almost just terrible luck of the draw here is the Ridgefield Tigers. They're the 2 seed, the 1 seed for so long, but due to bonus power points, Northwest Catholic jumps them. So they get the defending 2-time champion Darien Blue Wave in the first round. Potentially Fairfield Prep in the second round. Xavier lingering down there at the end. Prep and Xavier, the only teams this year who beat Ridgefield. How do they come off that FCX championship now emotionally and avoid what happened to the basketball team last night, Kevin?
That's a great point. That's what I was going to mention is how they don't want to do what the boys basketball team did last night. They don't want to have that extra hangover like Coach McClellan said that the Ridgefield Tigers did have in that first half. And what the Ridgefield boys hockey team needs to do is stay disciplined. I think they need to go out and play their game. Not think about how Darien is 2-time defending champion here in the FCAC. They need to take care of business, and boy, they love to move on to that second round, potentially play Fairfield Prep.
But you know what, Kevin? I'm just going to jump in because having talked to some of the people around the Ridgefield hockey team, this is a hockey team that's won state championships on the youth level multiple times. They're used to it. They've been there before. Basketball, winning a title was a whole new thing. It was a brand new thing for them, and they didn't know how to react. This hockey team's been there before, and I think if they keep their heads, which they came dangerously close to not doing Saturday against New Canaan, if they keep their heads, I think they can make a real good run. I think they can survive what is a tough draw. I mean, you went down that draw, Frank. I'll take the Fairfield Co-op's draw before that draw any day.
And by no means is Darien an easy out either. You're talking about a Darien team now that's won the last 2 state championships and has had 12 days to prepare for the Ridgefield Tigers, who they faced twice this year. So that's a game certainly to keep an eye on. The last first-round matchup of FCAC teams, you've got Greenwich and New Canaan. New Canaan has got to feel very good about their draw. They would be at home, potentially Terry Connors from what I'm hearing, against Notre Dame West Haven in the second round, and then would see either Hamden or Hamden or Northwest Catholic in the round after that. So an interesting matchup there. I think New Canaan bounces back. This loss is good for them. From what we saw in the semifinals, I just don't know that Greenwich is at the point yet where they're ready to keep up with the Rams. You're talking about a very junior-heavy team, Eric, going up against a senior-led New Canaan team.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's all you need to say. All right, quickly around the table here. Team from the FCAC most likely to make it to Ingalls for the semifinals and then the championship.
Ridgefield Tigers.
Yes, shocker. John.
I got to agree with him. Ridgefield, you have to play a perfect game, I think, to beat them. They do so much well that they force you to do a lot well, and you might not be that kind of team.
Eric?
I am going to go outside the FCAC for this, and whenever you get to the Division I tournament in hockey, you got to look out for the Evil Empire, Fairfield Prep. I think they are poised to upset some apple carts here. If we get that second round matchup between Ridgefield and Fairfield Prep, that is an interesting matchup. And correct me if I'm wrong, did Prep beat Ridgefield earlier this year?
They split their series 1-1 during the season. Ridgefield won the season opener. Prep took game number 2 in the series. And you're right. It's interesting because only one of Ridgefield and Prep can make it to the semifinals. They would have to meet in the second round. I'm going to go with New Canaan purely because they're on the favorable side of the bracket. I think that they got a very lucky draw there in the 4 spot. Greenwich is a good matchup in the first round. Notre Dame and West Haven, they proved that they can skate against in that opening weekend, John, when we saw them. And I like the Rams against Northwest Catholic again, if that were the case. It's a great draw for New Canaan, and that's purely why I think they've got a good path to get back to the Whale.
Do you like New Canaan against St. Joe's if St. Joe's pulls off that upset?
That's a great matchup because you think back to the regular season, a 2-2
That's
tie.
where I'm going.
Ryan Wilson with 50 saves. And again, we've talked about it a lot this year. I'm a firm believer Northwest Catholic is a bit overrated. I think that they are primed for that 116 upset, which we saw in the Class M tournament last night. And Sonia, the 32 seed, coming up with an upset, which is how we're going to transition to basketball after the break. John's going to step out. Don will join us next on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.
Get a fresh start to the new year by shaking up your meal routine. Walter Stewart's Market is your local source for a delicious selection of fresh and convenient salad shakers, like Southwest salad with chicken, Cobb with organic chicken, Power Vegan with fruit and quinoa, Greek salad with tabbouleh, and grilled shrimp with hominy. Grab one from our salad case or order from our deli today. Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street, New Canaan, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
Well, there's still a bite out on the water. Most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
Whether you're looking for the freshest seafood, the perfect steak, or want to share delicious appetizers, look no further than the Stone's Throw. Chef Peter Hom has more than 30 years of experience creating original recipes in his American eclectic style. Our dishes are made from scratch with fresh, local ingredients that pair perfectly with a seasonal craft beer, a signature cocktail, or your favorite wine. When you visit our Riverside location, you'll feel like you're on vacation when you're only a stone's throw from home. Visit us on Roosevelt Drive in Seymour or at StonesThrowCT.com. If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN Network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier Network, and we've also reached more than 2 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Back on the HAN Network with Nutmeg Sports, Donald Eng joining myself, Kevin Coleman, and Eric Gendrinow. And Don, I will ask you the question that I left John with at the start of the block, in the A block. Better winter season for the athletic program, was it the Ridgefield Tigers or the Danbury Hatters?
Well, I thought about this and I flip-flopped a couple of times, and keep in mind the season is not quite over for some of these teams, but I'm going to go Danbury. I mean, there's just no, I understand that Ridgefield is a hockey and a basketball FCIAC championship in the same year, something that is very unusual. But when you look at Danbury, they essentially won everything else. I mean, whether it's wrestling or the track or any of these other sports that sometimes can fly under the radar, but they're still phenomenal accomplishments, particularly for the athletes involved. So I'm going to go with Danbury.
Eric, let me ask you this. If Ridgefield wins a hockey state championship, which way do you lean then?
Yeah, Don made a great point, with the season still going on here, and I do think last night's loss to Shelton kind of hurts Ridgefield's chances of maybe picking them in that regard. Right now, as I lean towards Danbury, but Danbury has always been a perennial wrestling powerhouse. To be able to win that New England championship is absolutely incredible, and something that hasn't been done since 1990. But to be able to pull off the hockey and the boys hockey and basketball championship, and like you discussed earlier, Frank, to have those second place and third place finishes in some of those other sports, the girls' sports, it's a toss-up right now. I'm leaning Danbury right now, but you're right. I think if Ridgefield goes on and wins, or at least even gets to the Whale in the D1, I think I lean just ever so slightly to Ridgefield for the winter.
I think if you knock off Darien, the two-time defending state champ, and then you can beat Fairfield Prep in that rubber match in the quarterfinals, and you find yourself playing Xavier in the semifinals, I think then you can really justify the argument in favor of Ridgefield. But
well, particularly when you consider that Ridgefield's 2 losses this year in hockey are to Fairfield Prep and Xavier. Those are the only 2 losses on their ledger. You avenge both of them. That's a pretty big step.
I think one other thing to consider, though, is just the dominating fashion that Danbury always competes in the track, and just how much they won by in those particular sports. The wrestling Danbury, like you said, Danbury is always good in wrestling, but the level of domination that they put up in wrestling, we covered that game against Ward, and Ward, they just blew him out of the water, and just every match that they have gone in this winter has just been absolutely incredible.
And they've been a dominant program for 2 decades, and the gap seems to be expanding.
You're right, and you're also talking about when they played Ward and Trumbull in consecutive matches. That was the number 6 team in the state, who they casually beat by 60 points. Then they get number 2 New Milford in the regular season, and they run it up on them by 50 points. And the way they just cruise through state opens, this is a very special wrestling class for Danbury, which is a very tough thing to do when you think about how successful all these classes are. I mean, people still show up and chant 2010 because there's nothing else you can say to the Danbury Hatters wrestling team. And you're right, the track too. I think we thought maybe this was a year where Staples or Ridgefield, with their distance runners, could steal this championship away from Danbury and track, but they closed the deal there. And then they're the underdog in cheerleading who pulls that major upset as well. So it's no knock on Ridgefield, who's having one of the best years in the history of FCX sports, at least for those big-name sports. But, the Hatters they're almost forgotten about right now because they won all the championships at the start of the month.
No, you're right. And I think Danbury, you mentioned how significant the wrestling and track team has been over these years, and it really is impressive. And wrestling, it continues to amaze me how dominant they are, and they will continue to be dominant. Track team, I've seen them in person even when I was attending, and I was doing track and field, and right before my eyes, this was a track team that was amazing. And soccer, they came close. They flirted with an FCI championship and a state final appearance. This was a boys soccer team that I was impressed with as well. Cheerleading, none of us really thought Danbury was going to win it, Frank, and they again continue to amaze me. So Danbury, yes, has had a remarkable winter season, but I still got to give a little bit of love to the Tigers.
And it's understandable. And as we mentioned, the Tigers' legacy takes a small hit last night. You cannot take anything away from what this Ridgefield team did, but ultimately having to come back for a 4th consecutive game trying to stave off elimination would not be the case, as the Shelton Gales came away with a 50-48 victory on a Brian Burrito buzzer-beating layup. Burrito collecting a rebound off an Essen player miss, goes all the way down, and Kevin, he sprinted that floor with 5 seconds left. I didn't realize how much time was left because all of a sudden I see the ball go in and I look to my left and the clock's at 0. With how confident he was getting to the basket, you would have thought there were 3 or 4 seconds left on the clock. He had time to spare.
It's amazing how much speed the Burrito brothers have. Both him and Brian just flying down the court last night. But that's a drill, actually, Frank, that you practice early on in your basketball career. You take as many little dribbles as you can down the court to see how fast you can get down. Some players I've seen get down in 2 to 3 seconds. He flew down the court and just got that layup off in time.
And it was a circus shot too. It was a layup, but it was
he got that one high up off the glass, and I'm thinking to myself, this one, first off, I thought Essen player's shot went in from our angle, when he first got it off, and then when Burrito went down, it was high off the glass to the point where it rattled off the rim twice, where you're thinking to yourself, this may not go in, this may be another overtime for the Tigers. But again, what a performance by Shelton. And at the end of the day, they deserve to win that game, Frank. They came in to a hostile Tigers den, and they really took care of business, playing shutdown defense. And that first half, you couldn't play any better. Even to start the game off, I thought Shelton played outstanding.
Go ahead, Eric.
You want to know how fast that was, that run down the court was? I almost didn't, going with our new behind-the-scenes look here on Nutmeg Sports, I almost didn't switch over to the camera of him getting the shot in, because I didn't realize he was all the way down the court already. So I'm like, oh, they missed that shot. Oh, he's already down the court. I better take that other camera. And I almost missed the shot. He got down there so fast. None of us could believe it. No one in the gym could believe it, how quickly he got down there, and that it was a buzzer beater. Everyone was in shock on that one.
Speaking of fast, it was a game that took an hour and 2 minutes from tip to that final ball.
Baseball commissioner paying attention to that?
Seriously. From the
Speed up.
tip off till that last layup. Here's a look at the highlights in Shelton's first round victory. Talked about Ladowdy with the rebound down low. He needs to be able to capitalize with his size advantage as a three-pointer knocked down by the junior Brennan McNamara. As they go inside, Martinez kicks to the corner, three-pointer on the way. Good.
Wow, what great ball movement. Brian Granito gets his first bucket of the night, three-pointer. That's a big three for him.
They defeated Xavier by a score of 55-54. The alley-oop. Great look from Essen player.
Pretty play there. Traveling with this team throughout the FCI playoffs. A big bucket for McNamara there. What a great first half.
Outside, Ryan Murphy. Three-pointers, good.
Don't leave him open. He'll hit that all night long.
And a double dribble call here on Chris Longo. Reminiscent of Matt Cronenberg in the FCX championship right there. Ridgefield has gone to double overtime in their last two games. Longo open for three. Gets it to go.
Woo! Senior captain. We're in the big 3-4. Knocking down a big three. Don't leave it in the corner with Ladowdy. Got to swing it back out.
Essen player trying to go down low. Runner in the lane off the mark. Rebound to the Gales. Up ahead. Driving to the rack. And it goes at the buzzer!
Unbelievable finish there by Brito. He was laser focused on that net. I can't believe the amount of focus he just showed right there.
Wow. What a finish. The sophomore, Frank. The sophomore gets it done. Wow.
The scoop layup high off the backboard, falling through right as time expires. And the dream season for the Tigers has come to an end. The Shelton Gales end a 16-year playoff drought. It is the first win for Shelton in the state tournament since 2001. Before we dole out the credit to the Gales, Eric, your take on the play call with 10 seconds to go by the Tigers.
I'm going to take a page out of Josh Fisher's book, one of our executive producers here, and lobby for the shot clock here, because I think it actually hurt Ridgefield in the end there that they didn't have a shot clock. How many times, Frank, did we see this postseason and the regular season where a team would sit there at the top of the key for that final shot and then put up a very questionable play, a very questionable shot, and Essen player has been the guy all postseason long for Ridgefield who has come up with those magical shots, and he drove to the basket right away, didn't have the best lane to the rack there, and ended up kind of putting a brick up there and kind of set up that final play. I mean, I think these teams sit there for the 45 seconds to a minute, just winding the clock down, and I don't think that they make the best decisions with that much time. They kind of get a little flat-footed and end up making horrible plays. Honestly, we've seen that several times, I think.
Well, it's also a matter of two now. They go to the rack they probably made their move, I would say, with 10 seconds to go. The shot goes up with 6 seconds. You got the feeling, Kevin, that Coach McClellan was expecting to get an offensive rebound on that one, too, should Essen player miss. And they were crashing the glass aggressively, which left them exposed at the opposite end.
But listen, Shelton did such a great job last time at boxing out, especially Ladowdy, who had a significant size advantage on the Gales. But Shelton really did an excellent job boxing out last night and getting some key rebounds, especially the last play of the game. But to me, on that play, Essen player has been the clutch guy, especially in that semifinal game. made some great plays in the FCAC final, but he went too early. And yes, you want to give some time, maybe if it rattles off for a rebound, but for a shot like that, if you're going to drive the lane, at least go in and, maybe 2 more seconds, 3 more seconds, drive that lane, hop in, and maybe even get fouled per chance. But, I like the aggressiveness by an SM player to drive in. He's had the hot hand. He's had some big buckets down the stretch, but I would have liked to see him go a little later, a little too early for me.
And Don, you were watching from home. What was your take on the way those final few minutes unfolded? Because Ridgefield, again, they come up with this huge comeback. They take the lead off the big Chris Longo 3, and then Shelton scores the game's final 3 points. What did it look like from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, because it's a little bit different when you don't have a crowd screaming around you. And my thought was that Shelton was hanging on in the fourth quarter. My feeling was Shelton was hanging on by their nails. If Ridgefield could put their nose out in front, then I thought that they would just be able to pull away and win that game. And I thought they were going to do it. That final shot, it was one of those. It was almost like a Kobe Bryant, like unassisted, contested shot to try and win the game. And it just didn't work. I'm one of those people. I believe you either go all the way to the hoop or stay all the way out. Layup, dunk, or 3-pointer. That's kind of where I would be on that. And I was expecting them to really to try and get that ball inside to one of the big guys, rather than having a player start his drive 25 feet from the basket. I was really expecting a drive and a dish, and it just didn't happen.
Well, we really agreed, too, that the Tigers, that game was lost in the first half. They just had no answer for the zone defense, and turnovers absolutely plagued them. The winners out of the FCAC last night included Darien, Trumbull, Danbury, and Fairfield Ward. So those are the 4 remaining FCAC schools. Around the board again here, if one of those 4 teams is going to make it to the Sun, or even the semifinals, I'll give you that one. Which one has got the best chance in your opinion?
That's a tough call. I think I would say Danbury, but they're going up against a very tough Notre Dame West Haven team who's ranked number 1 right now. Darien has a good chance. I kind of like Fairfield Ward. This is a team going up against NFA right now. They get the winner of East Catholic Hamden. Frank, this is a Fairfield Ward team that is scrappy right now. And if you have Marcel Parsons.
I want to correct you here, actually, because this makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does make
This makes a huge difference. Ward gets the winner of Hillhouse Shelton.
That's right.
So,
yeah, that changes things.
Want to change your answer now?
If Trumbull beats Fairfield Prep, they would play the winner of East Catholic Hamden.
Okay, so still, Fairfield Ward, this is a scrappy team. Marcel Parsons is that type of player who can really take over a tournament, guys. And, Trumbull, again, we're going to see them tomorrow against Fairfield Prep. And, this is a test for Trumbull. This is a Fairfield Prep team that's going to come in and, try and, win the game in that first quarter against you. And they're going to try and step up their game extra. They're going to bring everything they've got. So, yes, Trumbull has also a great opportunity to go to Mohegan Sun in that final. But, listen, it's going to be very tough for these teams in the FCAC, especially with Hillhouse and Notre Dame West Haven.
Yeah, I'm going to partially agree with what you said. I think that Trumbull does have, of the schools we mentioned, I think Trumbull has the most realistic shot at least to the semis. They got a tough test tomorrow with Fairfield Prep. Probably the best 22 seed you'll ever see. A team that was 10-10 in the regular season, but is just now getting healthy. They have dominant size up front, and their guard play has been getting better. Now, if Trumbull can get past them, then they run into the winner of East Catholic and Hamden, another couple of very good teams. Hamden out of the SCC, East Catholic from the eastern part of the state. But those games Trumbull's 2 games are tough, but I would say, realistically winnable. You got to get them both to get to the semis. Mm-hmm. But I think of the remaining FCAC teams, at least in Class L, that is the most realistic shot to get to the semis.
Eric, you got a team that you like heading forward?
All I'll say is for our coverage for tomorrow, Trumbull's in trouble. Prep is going to bring it tomorrow. That game, I think, is going to be very interesting, and Trumbull better watch out for a Prep team. Once again, just like hockey, just got to get in. Fairfield Prep's just got to get in there, and they could cause trouble.
You have been hanging out with Don too much.
I guess I have.
I'm shocked no one went the Darien route. Darien gets East Hartford in their next game, which
Darien's getting toasted by East Hartford.
I'm telling you, man. East Hartford and Weaver or Hall are 2 of the more winnable games that are facing the FCAC right now. Danbury's outmatched against Notre Dame and West Haven. I'm sorry. They can't crack that code right there. Ward NFA, maybe. They're not going to hang with Hillhouse. Even if you brought the Brancatos back, they're not hanging with Hillhouse. And again, Trumbull is, yes, I think they have winnable games, but it's an extremely talented prep team. And East Catholic and Hamden both very capable as well. So we'll keep an eye on it moving forward, obviously. And we will be at Trumbull tomorrow night for their game against Fairfield Prep. We're going to have more on that coming out of the break. Bill Bloxham, who was in Trumbull last night for their first round win, is going to join us and share his thoughts heading into the next round. Coming up next on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.
Want a new experience in car buying? Scap Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram with one of the largest inventories of new 2- and 4-door Wranglers. We are Connecticut's Wrangler headquarters. Come visit our new Ram Truck Center. Browse our websites, scapchryslerjeep.com or scapdodge.net to find the new Jeep, Chrysler Dodge car, minivan, or Ram truck you've been looking for. Just 2 miles from both I-95 or the Merritt Parkway exit 44. Save thousands at the President's Day event and Ram Truck Month, now through February 28th.
Have a sports injury or slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Basketball, hockey, skiing, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
At the Milford Bank, we offer an extensive selection of lending products and services to meet virtually any need. Submit your application online in our Mortgage Web Center. Start to finish, you can apply for a loan in as little as 10 minutes. Our knowledgeable and helpful staff are available to meet with you at your convenience. To learn more about what we can do for you, stop by one of our Milford Bank offices or visit us at milfordbank.com. The Milford Bank, always there. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. Sign your child up now for InSports Future Stars Basketball Academy, teaching skills on the basketball court for boys and girls ages 5 through 9. Visit InSportsCenters.com for more information on this 7-week program. And for adults, spots are also still available for our men's 30 and over and 40 and over leagues. Like and follow us on Facebook.
We told Dad he could have his office back if he sold 150 cars last month.
Deal's a deal.
Well, Dad, you did it. You get your office back.
Forget it. I'm having too much fun down here. My new goal, 160 cars. Wow. Folks, if you ever wanted a great price on a new Nissan, now is the time.
Right now, lease a 2017 Altima 2.5S for only $99 a month.
Isn't it time you got Millerized?
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
Back on the HAN Network, Bill Bloxham joins us now. And Bill, we've been talking a little bit about the better season for an athletic program. I'm going to change the question here for you. What is more impressive in your eyes? And I'm hoping you're a little biased towards the wrestling here. Okay. Winning the New England Championship by the Danbury Hatters wrestling team, or Ridgefield being able to win both basketball and hockey?
It's hard to get a team to win. You know, it's really hard to get a team sport forward. Individual sports, you know, you're drawing, you're hoping, you're doing all these type of things. Very impressive for Danbury, and the fact that it took them like 29 years to do it again, or whatever it was when the last time they won New England's. But having 2 basketball programs in the same season work its way through what I thought was a very, very balanced league this year in both girls and boys basketball, I'd have to give the edge to Ridgefield there.
Yeah, and it is. It's a very interesting debate, and it's been fun to have across the board here. Bill, you were at Trumbull High last night, the Eagles with their opening round game against the Greenwich Cardinals. We're going to get to see them in action now moving forward with our next game. Before we look ahead to prep, you said to me this morning it was a Greenwich team that even with Connor Harkins and how amazing he has been all year. Just not on the same level right now as the Trumbull Eagles.
Well, no, Coach Buddy Bray really got his team playing the way he wants them to play. He had 5 players in double figures. You know, that's the way to go. 12-12, 11-11-11. Never gave up a quarter, you know, which I think is important when you're playing a real, you know, and Greenwich is dangerous. Whenever you have a Harkins, you can't match up with him. No one can, but if you can take away, you know, his cohorts and things like that and do that. But, you know, what's Trumbull's reward? They go 18-2 in the regular season. 6th seed, okay, double L is always the, you know, loaded. We always look at that and say how that is. So, you know, you draw the 29 seed, you take care of business, you win. What was the score, 70-45? You know, okay, let's move on and take on that 22 seed. 22 seed happens to be a Fairfield Prep team. Well, let's just look at it a little bit, okay? 6'8" center, 6'5" forward. 6'8" center is Patrick Harding. 6'5" forward is John Kelly. 6'2" guard is Philip Vlandis. Vlandis scores 15. Kelly scores 22. Harding has 13 points and 11 rebounds to beat a very good Wilbur Cross team, who you know, once again would have been tough for Trumbull. Trumbull's just really going to have to find a way to rebound. You know, their height comes from Jack Lynch, 6'4", J.J. Foles, 6'2", Johnny McElroy is 6'3", Tamon Williams is 6'2", a sophomore.
They're a very lengthy squad. They don't have that true big man to play with, but they're lengthy and athletic. They can rebound well. The opportunities for Trumbull are going to come in the mid-range, I think, and they're going to have Timon Williams knocking down threes. This is a game where not every player has to be in double figures, but they have got to shoot probably between 45 to 50% from the field.
If I'm a Trumbull fan, what I want to see them do is get to the foul line. They have good foul shooters. They don't get there very often. It's not so much that they rely on the three, but they run their offense real well. They don't like to just go and go to the rim for no particular reason. They go and they kick. I want to see them go and take the ball to the basket against a big team like that and see if they can get them in foul trouble that way. I think they might be able to run a little bit on Fairfield Prep, which is rare this season. But that's good. But I mean, you look at Fairfield Prep. I mean, you know, it's just amazing the run they've been on. They went 9-11 before Leo Redgate took over. Double L finals, double L semis, double L finals, double L runner-ups, double L champions, double L runner-ups. Here they are again. So it's hard to go against the pedigree.
And they have that playoff experience as
and
well.
Once again, they find, this hasn't been a one-man team at any point in time. When Patrick Harding went out, they kind of held course. He wasn't out that long, as I found out, but still.
But it's also, too, a team now that out early in the SEC tournament, well-rested, time to prepare and get back on track heading into this tournament. And, Eric, you mentioned how they're the evil empire for hockey. They've been more of an evil empire, really, in basketball lately when you look at the runs. But, I mean, it doesn't matter the regular season. Prep has figured it out that, whatever, we'll win our games when it comes time to win games. And when you get into the tournament, you can't bet against Fairfield Prep.
Yeah, I mean, they are in a slightly different situation than normal with this low of a seed. You don't usually see them this low. I mean, they've been as high as number 1 pretty recently and had some amazing teams in recent years. But, again, it's that pedigree. It's that experience. Having that experience, you know, as an underclassman, then to be a senior on a team that makes it to the playoffs, being there, that's a huge difference. And then when they go up against a team like Trumbull, you know, has recent success, but hasn't been quite as high of a seed before, recently anyways. You know, that having that experience certainly is a bonus for Fairfield Prep.
Great.
Looking at the tournament fields, Bill, we sort of said which team out of Double L from the FCI has got the best chance to get there. The popular pick is Trumbull if they can get through Prep. They have a more favorable draw compared to Danbury, Fairfield Ward, or Darien. I disagree on the Darien thing, but if you look at the teams in Class L, M, and S, you got St. Joe's a winner last night, Wilton and Trinity Catholic played tonight. Does one of those teams jump off the screen at you? Maybe they can make a run in one of the other classes.
I would just say Trinity Catholic, once again, with the pedigree, playing in the FCIAC, being in a Class S school, as good as those teams are. Although it's funny because when you play against these double L schools or L schools, you run into a whole different type of breed of player when you go to the S's. All are three-point shooters.
Yep.
All go 7 deep. It's just the way, it's just a whole different what you do. You can't just pick out on one guy and do it. You actually you have to train, you have to practice against a different style than you may be seeing. I would think that whatever you were going to do against a Wilton is what you want to do against the other teams, because that is the type of team that Class S plays. That is the way they play. They're not usually big. They just like to spread it out and do that. So I like Trinity Catholic. I do like St. Joe's. They'd have to play at their optimum. Now that they have this upset, it kind of opens the door a little bit. When they beat Suffield last night, and but now they need each one of their players to play at their height to keep moving. But that's a good job by Paul Dudzinski and the Cadets.
Eric, go ahead. You had a comment on that one.
Yeah, well, I wanted to go back to prep real quick. I was looking at their schedule, and you look at their early struggles. They lost a career twice by a combined 5 points between those two games. So that's 2 close games they lost. They did beat Hill House this year. They handed Hill House one of their few losses in the regular season, 70-62, and they had lost to Wilbur Cross earlier this year by 3 points, and then they annihilated them last night. So I think, again, Fairfield Prep, very dangerous 22 seed. Going to the other teams, I do think Trinity Catholic is in an excellent position to make a really good run, being that number 6 seed. They're in the bottom of the bracket. I think they are in a really good position to really make some noise, and maybe I think they have the best chance of any FCIAC team left to get to Mohegan Sun. Looking up at I think St. Joe's is in a pretty good position after they the big upset win over Suffield last night. Wilton is also in a decent position, but I think they could run into some problems in the quarterfinals if they end up against a Bassick.
Let me ask you this. If I give you the opportunity, do you want to double down on Prep Boys basketball as your pick to make it to the Sun along with Ingles?
Ooh.
Kev, let me ask you this now in regards to Wilton, okay? We know how talented the Warriors can be. This is not going to be the Warriors team we're used to seeing. Wood, done for the year. Williams out at least the first round, most likely the entire postseason. What kind of chance are you giving the Warriors now, minus those 2 big names?
I'm giving them a chance. This is a Warriors team. Again, still so impressed with how Drew Connolly and Matt Cronenberg have taken over this team with Williams being unhealthy at times this year. Jack Wood is a big loss. He may not be the biggest guy on the court, but he takes his body for the team, and he really puts it all out there. I mean, look how many times he puts his body out there for offensive fouls, grabbing steals. I mean, at the end in that semifinal, he was getting really banged up. And, this is a Warriors team, again, if they can shoot the ball and hit their shots early, they're dangerous. Just the question is, can they do that? And defensive-wise, this is a good team. Offense, if they score early, put points up, and really put pressure on their opponent, I think they really do have a chance, Frank.
Wilton and Trinity are in action tonight. You will also see the Trumbull hockey team along with West Hill Stanford Co-op in the D2 playoffs. Huge shout out to the Trinity Catholic Crusaders puck squad. They took down number 8 Massac in D3 last night, 6-2, and are on to the quarterfinals. A lot of fun today, gentlemen. Can't wait to have everyone back. Eric, good job. You didn't fold under pressure on camera.
It's multitasking has never been my strong suit. Ask my wife, but
we need swag for Eric, guys. We got to light up that room.
Let's get this going, guys. We gotta fill this room with lots. I want this to be the I Spy of the FCIAC here.
There you go. He's putting the ADs on lockdown.
I spoke about Fairfield Prep side. Jack Lynch has been playing with the 6 Ward Center for Trumbull High. Yeah, playing his best basketball the last 5 games. He's averaging an over double figures. And when you're the 5th option on your offense and you're doing that, that gives you something to go for. That'll help your confidence. So here we go.
Bill, I'm a loyalist. I'm with you. I'm on the Trumbull bandwagon right now. Whoa. Ooh. We'll see what happens. We'll have plenty more to preview that game tomorrow. We'll look at the D1 hockey matchups. Highlights galore. All coming up tomorrow on Nutmeg Sports. We're off tonight. Get back at 11 a.m. Coffee break with Casey Blensky. For Eric, Bill, Kevin, I'm Frank. We'll see you at 2 tomorrow.